It was supposed to be a normal day in the bustling city where traffic and tempers often collide. A taxi driver navigated the crowded streets, his cab just one among countless vehicles. But when a group of bikers suddenly surrounded his car, everything changed. What began as a heated exchange quickly escalated, shouting, banging on windows, and then fists smashing metal. The bikers, fueled by rage, had no idea who they were dealing with. Beneath the driver's calm demeanor was a man trained for moments far more dangerous than this, a Secret Service operative undercover, his skills and instincts sharpened for high-stakes missions. As the chaos unfolded, the driver stayed composed, calculating his next move. Little did the bikers know, their actions would trigger a chain of events they couldn't have foreseen. What happened next would turn their world upside down. Stay tuned. This is a story you won't want to miss. The scene on the crowded street grew more intense. Passers-by slowed down, some recording on their phones, while others debated whether to step in or stay out of it. The bikers, clearly emboldened by their numbers, continued their assault on the cab, their voices echoing with threats and accusations. To the average onlooker, it seemed like just another road rage incident spiraling out of control. But inside the taxi, the driver was anything but ordinary. His eyes scanned the situation with precision, noting every movement, every face. He wasn't just reacting, he was assessing. Years of covert training had taught him to keep his emotions in check, even in the most volatile situations. The bikers had no idea who they were provoking. To them, he was just another driver, someone they could intimidate. What they couldn't see was the calm storm brewing beneath the surface. Something was about to shift. As the commotion escalated, the driver subtly reached under his seat, his fingers brushing against the small, secure compartment he'd installed himself. Inside was more than just a standard first aid kit. It was a lifeline for situations exactly like this. He paused, knowing that any sudden move could set the bikers off further. Timing was everything. Meanwhile, one of the bikers, the apparent leader, shouted commands to the others. It was clear this wasn't random. They had a grudge, or so they believed. "You think you can cut us off and just drive away?" he yelled, slamming his fist against the hood. His companions revved their engines, their growls almost drowning out the words. The crowd began to swell, with some people calling the police while others stayed glued to their screens, live streaming the chaos. Amid the noise, the driver glanced at the leader, piecing together details from his voice and stance. There was something familiar about him, something that made the driver's instincts hum with recognition. The tension thickened as the bikers pushed harder, their frustration boiling over. What they didn't realize was that they were rapidly running out of control and time. The driver was readying himself for what came next. The leader of the bikers stepped closer, his boots crunching against the pavement as he glared at the driver through the windshield. "Get out of the car," he demanded, his voice sharp with impatience. The driver stayed still, his hands resting lightly on the wheel, his expression unreadable. Inside, his mind raced, calculating the risks, planning his next move. He wasn't just a man in a taxi. He was trained for moments of extreme pressure, and this was rapidly becoming one of them. The bikers began circling the cab, their engines roaring like predators closing in on their prey. One of them swung a helmet, shattering the side mirror with a loud crash. The crowd gasped, the tension rippling through the air. The driver flinched slightly, not from fear, but to sell the act. He needed them to believe he was just an ordinary man, cornered and helpless. But as they closed in, he noticed something strange. The leader wasn't just angry. He was watching the driver carefully, almost too carefully. It clicked. This wasn't just road rage. They were testing him, trying to provoke a reaction. The driver's jaw tightened. Whatever this was, it wasn't random, and he was done playing along. Inside the cab, his hand moved back toward the hidden compartment. He knew the moment to act was near, but every second dragged out as the tension built. The bikers thought they had the upper hand. What they didn't realize was that they were seconds away from triggering a storm they couldn't handle. Just as the driver's fingers brushed against the hidden latch, a sharp whistle cut through the air. It came from the edge of the crowd, piercing enough to momentarily silence the roar of the motorcycles. The bikers hesitated, their heads snapping toward the sound. Emerging from the gathering spectators was a man in a plain jacket, his hands stuffed casually in his pockets. He walked with an ease that seemed out of place in the chaos, his eyes locked directly on the leader of the bikers. The driver froze, his instincts on high alert. He recognized the man immediately, not from the streets, but from briefings. Another operative. Only this one wasn't supposed to be here. What was he doing, and why was he revealing himself now? The biker leader's demeanor shifted. His bravado wavered as he exchanged a look with the man, a flicker of recognition passing between them. The tension hung heavier than ever. Was the leader more than he appeared? And what connection did he have to this newcomer? The driver's pulse quickened. Whatever game was being played, it had just become far more complicated. The crowd, unaware of the undercurrents, buzzed with curiosity. For the driver, one thing was certain: the stakes had just skyrocketed. The air seemed to stand still as the man in the jacket stepped closer, his calm demeanor in stark contrast to the chaos. "That's enough," he said, his voice firm but controlled. The biker leader straightened, his bravado now replaced with a thinly veiled tension. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. The driver, still seated in the cab, pieced it together. This wasn't just an attack. It was an orchestrated encounter, a test of loyalty or trust gone awry. The biker leader had a past, one that tied him to the operative now stepping into the fray. Before anyone could react, the man in the jacket revealed a badge, different from the one the driver carried but equally official. "This ends now," he warned, his voice cutting through the confusion. The bikers froze, unsure of their next move. But then came the twist. From behind the driver, another figure emerged from the crowd, a woman dressed casually but with the unmistakable air of authority. "Both of you," she said, her gaze flicking between the two operatives. "You've been compromised." The driver's heart sank. What had been a confrontation with the bikers had just unraveled into something far bigger. The woman's words hung in the air, leaving everyone, including the crowd, in stunned silence. This wasn't just about a cab, a biker gang, or even two operatives. The entire situation was part of a larger game, one where no one was entirely innocent. The bikers, sensing they were caught in something far beyond their understanding, began retreating one by one. The leader lingered for a moment, his eyes darting between the operatives and the woman who had taken command. Finally, he turned and rode off, his gang following close behind. The crowd, unsure of what had just unfolded, slowly dispersed, leaving behind whispers and unanswered questions. The woman stepped closer to the driver and the man in the jacket, her tone quiet but firm. "This was never about the bikers," she said. "You've both been watched, and this incident just confirmed what we needed to know." The driver's expression tightened. He'd followed every protocol, stayed under the radar, also, he thought. With a nod, she walked away, leaving the two operatives standing in uneasy silence. As the driver got back into his cab and drove off, one thought lingered. The real game had only just begun.